My wife, 27, and I, male 30, own a sizable farm that's usually the nexus of family events. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 300 acres, and electrical hookups for 4 campers, so the whole clan can come to stay for extended visits in the summer. We built it that way deliberately. My cousin Bill, male 56, has a daughter, Alice, 18, from his first marriage. His first wife was an immigrant with no family in our country and no contact with any family in her home country. Unfortunately, she passed away when Alice was 2, and Bill remarried Tanya, female 52, 6 months later. They have since had 3 kids. Everything in their house revolves around either the boys, their 2 oldest together, or their princess, their daughter together, and Alice is left behind. She doesn't get to go on family trips. They wouldn't pay for extracurricular stuff. She couldn't take elective classes that had extra fees, etc. I'm not a smart man, but I recognize a kid hurting inside and being neglected. She's like Mr. Hyde with them and Dr. Jekyll elsewhere. But Alice is a brat. Typical teenage acting out, but cranked up. Slamming doors, screaming matches with her stepmom, swearing. Probably 3 or 4 big blowouts a week, and sometimes over some disproportionately small stuff. I've watched her grow, and the acting out came after the exclusion from family stuff. For the last 4 summers, she's been coming to work on my farm because her parents don't want her around during summer break. She turned 18 recently. Leading up to her birthday, her dad was adamant that she was being kicked out of the house when she turned 18 because it will teach her responsibility. We, wife Alice and I, discussed it, and early on her birthday, we pulled up with my truck and packed her stuff up. We only packed things she purchased herself or those given to her by another person. My boss got creative with our benefits provider to get Alice on my medical benefits until she finishes university. She starts in a few weeks, so she can go to therapy and get back into sports while saving her money. This is where it all comes apart. Bill and Tanya are angry that we took her in and refuse to go to family events. Part of the family refuses to attend as well because I'm, quote, undermining Bill and Tanya. I'll understand when I have kids. After they refused to participate in events, a few others said that with gas being so expensive and not everyone attending, they'd skip as well. My answer of, okie dokie, come if you want and don't if you don't, further upset people who thought I should have tried harder to get people to come. So now we're down to about 1/4 of the family in attendance for events. My aunt talked to Bill and Tanya, who would bury the hatchet if Alice stayed in a dorm instead of our house to smooth things over. I think that's dumb, but I'm dumb and stubborn. My wife thinks it's dumb, and she's really smart, but also very much attached to the situation. Alice said she'd rather stay with us, but would try the dorms to help make peace. Am I the idiot for not going with the dorm suggestion to keep the peace? Taking Alice in resulted in a significant portion of our family siding with Bill and Tanya and refusing to come to family events. We have 1 or 2 big gatherings per year and all the major holidays, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc. So the older family members are upset that they're not going to see the grandkids, great-grandkids, and family members that live far away as much. Not the idiot. Wow, they mistreated her for years, kicked her out of the house, and now they want to demand that you kick her out too? Horrible people, and you shouldn't think twice about the dorm. If the rest of the family wants to throw a snit fit in solidarity, let them. But be clear, this is not up for a group vote or unsolicited suggestions, especially if the goal is to make Bill and Tanya feel like they're teaching responsibility to a kid you already know is perfectly capable of working hard when she's got something she considers worth working for. You know that Bill won't kick the younger ones out to teach them some responsibility. I would tell your family members that they looked the other way while Bill neglected her for 16 years. They can darn well look the other way when you're not neglecting her. And for giggles, tell them Alice will inherit your place if you don't have kids. This whole situation reeks of the new wife not wanting to take care of some other woman's child and slowly turning her father over to her way of thinking. I'm also going to go out on a limb and say that there could be some racial issues at play too if Alice doesn't look like the other kids. The new wife has had 16 years to work on the husband to get to this point. Mini update. I ripped the band-aid off with the old fam jam and told them that fewer mouths to feed isn't the punishment they thought it was. Anyone else who was coming is still welcome, and I'd have the extra cash from not feeding so many people to help the folks concerned about gas prices make it out if they so choose. I'm in 4 different family group chats, and they're all lighting up. I'm gonna turn my phone on silent for a while and let the sparks fly. When I was home, I received a call from my sister-in-law out of the blue last night, informing me that her mother had been in a car accident due to a seizure. This was a single car accident, and no one else was hurt. My sister-in-law told me that her mother was in the hospital, but was fine and wanted to go home. My wife was at the tennis court with some friends during this time, and my sister-in-law tried calling her a couple of times but couldn't reach her, which is why she called me. The tennis courts are about a 5 to 7 minute walk from where I live. A couple of hours later, my wife gets home, and she first says, "You couldn't have walked down and told me?" in a loud, angry tone. I didn't text her about this incident, nor did I go down to the tennis courts to alert her because her sister told me their mother was fine, and I figured she would see multiple missed calls from her sister anyway. Later on in the night, she grabs the car key and tells me she's going to the hospital because her sister claimed she needed help. Am I the idiot for not telling my wife her mother was in a not-so-serious car accident? So, out of curiosity, what's wrong with you? Of course you are the idiot. Why couldn't you just walk down the street? Why couldn't you try to call your wife? Why do you think your wife didn't deserve to know that her mother was in a car accident? Good grief. You are the idiot. Dude, it's a 5-minute walk down the street. So her mother had a seizure and was in a car accident. Irrespective of being able to do something or not, she would have wanted to know ASAP. People are aware they aren't doctors and can't fix their loved ones, but they want to be there for moral support and help make them more comfortable. So, at a minimum, they want to be able to check in with loved ones. To be fair, it was 10 minutes for the round trip. Geez, if her mother was really fine, then her sister wouldn't have needed to call her multiple times and then try to reach OP. So it is urgent, but it's not I don't know if she's going to make it kind of urgent. OP should have told his wife immediately, and then she could have called her sister to check in after and hear for herself about her mother's condition. You're very lucky that her mom didn't take a turn. You don't have a crystal ball and don't know what'll happen in the future. They had her in a hospital for a reason. Imagine explaining why you didn't tell your wife if things didn't stay positive. Dear Lord, how could you think you're in the right on this, OP? My sister and I were pregnant at the same time. We started discussing baby names, and I said I would not tell her the one my husband and I chose for our son. My sister is a jerk and always enjoyed taking things that meant a lot to me when we were growing up. Well, she begged and even got our mom involved. So I finally told her I was naming my son after my husband's grandfather, a classic old name like Herbert or Ambrose. Sure enough, she has her baby, and lo and behold, his first name is the name I told her. She said it was always on her list, and it wasn't like it belonged to me. I guess she expected me to blow a gasket or something. When my son was born, I gave him the name my husband and I agreed on. It suits him, and he's perfect. My sister's telling everyone I tricked her into giving her son a goofy name. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I'm confused about how OP is an idiot. She told her sister a ridiculous name so she wouldn't steal the actual name she wanted. And after, the sister begged her to tell her. And what does the sister do? Decide to use said dumb name? If you give someone a rope and they hang themselves, that's on them. I don't understand why people are calling OP an idiot. Her sister didn't have to choose the name. It was always on her list. And it's not like OP owned the name. That was entirely her choice. Her sister chose the name maliciously and was angry when OP didn't get upset. OP didn't even want to share in the first place. I mean, who chooses the kid's name just to make someone angry versus choosing something they like? OP, your sister has some serious issues, and I'd just steer clear of her. Poor Herbert Ambrose. How did you trick her if the name was always on her list? Your sister is stupid for telling people she was tricked. That's basically admitting she was, in fact, lying about why she chose the name. It's her fault because she took the name for the sole purpose of taking it away from you. You did well, OP. I'd be on low contact with your sister though, because she sounds super toxic. I'd been renting from a landlord for a few years, and he was a typical landlord. Take the rent, do as few repairs as cheap as possible, etc. I'm sure you know the drill. He was also kinda late on stuff. Like every year, the lease says renewals should be sent out 2 months before the end of the lease to give the option, and every year he procrastinates until the last week or two of the lease. I was looking to buy my first house, and I closed on one 4 months before my lease was up, but I kept some overlap to live in the apartment while repairing the house. 2 months before the lease was up, like usual, my landlord forgot to send out the renewals. I thought of telling him I wouldn't be renewing, but then I remembered that my neighbors who moved had trouble with him bringing way too many potential tenants to tour. Nobody wanted the apartment because the online listing was a bait and switch, so people would see something looking in good repair and then come to tour and see it was crap, and nobody wanted to sign the lease, so we kept bringing more people instead of making an honest listing at an honest price. So I didn't say anything. I just kept fixing up the house and moving my stuff. Then 1 week before my lease expired, my landlord texted me the renewal. I didn't see it because I had my phone on Don't Disturb, but the following day he kept texting, wanting my signed renewal. I told him I don't plan on renewing, and he got really angry, demanding to know what apartment I was moving to next. I got the impression he wanted to call my next landlord to complain about me. Anyway, I told him I was moving back in with my parents. I didn't want to tell him about the house because of the temper he was getting with me. He started showing the apartment immediately, but I'd already finished moving out, so it didn't bother me. But when I stopped by to turn in my keys and ask for my security deposit, he got angry, saying that I had some nerve asking for $1,300 when I'd just screwed him out of a month's rent by not giving notice. I told him that the security deposit was for damages, and if he wanted to withhold it, he would have to send over an itemized list of damages and receipts for repairs. He gave me the security deposit back, but yelled at me that he took care of his tenants and that I was selfish for leaving without notice. I just left, but I guess I'm feeling kinda conflicted. On the one hand, it is literally his job, his only job, to handle leases and find out who's renewing, and if he forgot, that's not really my problem. But I knew I was leaving for the better part of a year, and I told him in less than a week. Am I the idiot for not telling my landlord I bought a house? Not the idiot. He didn't follow the lease rules, since you didn't mention any rules about a 30-day notice. That it seems to have to go from lease to lease, that's his bad, not yours. It would have been very nice for you to give him a month's notice, but it isn't an idiot move not to do so, especially as he was combative and wanted to sabotage you. He was late with the lease and disruptive to prospective tenants. Yep, he doesn't follow his own rules. Instead, he takes the gamble of procrastinating on the lease renewals that some tenants won't renew. He's also the idiot for expecting more courtesy than he gives and threatening to withhold the deposit. You don't have to give notice with a lease. The end of the lease is the notice, and maybe you would have known sooner if he'd actually done his job correctly. It's on him to send the renewal and to keep track of his property. You only have to give notice if you want to leave before it ends. He is reaping what he had sowed. Unfortunately, he didn't send out the renewals in a timely fashion, so he screwed himself over on that. He only has himself to blame. Where I live, there's a stunt driving law. If you are speeding 50 kilometers per hour or more over the speed limit, or doing anything else that constitutes stunt driving, such as racing or other unsafe stunts, the police will impound the vehicle for 14 days, on top of summoning you to court and a month-long license suspension. The impound is mandatory, and it doesn't matter who the vehicle belongs to, even if it's your work vehicle or you borrowed it from a friend. After 14 days, you have to pay the impound fees to get the vehicle back, and the longer you wait, the more the fees rack up. I have a younger sister. I'm 30 and she's 25. She took my car without permission. I don't live with her and my dad. She and her friends broke in and took it. She got caught for stunt driving and speeding, and my car got impounded. My dad and my grandparents told me to say she had permission to take my car. I didn't do that, and they lost it. If a car was stolen, the owner could take it back without the impound. We don't live in the city. There are no buses, subways, cabs, or Ubers here. I need my car for work. Without a car, I have no way to go to my clients' homes. My dad said I could rent a car while my car is an impound. I can't afford to rent a car or to pay the impound fees to actually get it out of impound when the time comes. He didn't offer to pay for the rental and the impound fees or to lend me a vehicle, and neither did anyone else who was mad at me for telling the police the car had been stolen. And they definitely wouldn't pay my bills if I got fired for not going to work. I don't know what people are expecting me to do here. I don't know why my sister did it, and I haven't talked to her because my dad says she's not talking to me because of what I did. If she had crashed my car or hurt someone else, I would have been held responsible as the car's owner. If she hadn't been stopped by the police and just brought my car back whenever she and her friends were done, I obviously would not have reported the car stolen. I would have yelled at her and told her off, but not gotten the police involved. But now I feel like I had no choice, because if I said she had permission and my car was impounded, I would have gotten fired from my job and probably would have had to sign my car over to the impound lot, because there's no way I could afford the impound fees. My insurance would not cover them, since an illegal act impounded it. I checked. Was I on the wrong side of things because I told the police she and her friends broke in and didn't have permission? So now she's been slapped with a charge for it, on top of everything. I just don't know what else I could have done, but I'm getting so much blowback from some people in my life. Am I the idiot? So you had two options. Number one, lie about giving your sister permission and absorb your sister's mistake and watch your finances and life fall apart. Or, number two, tell the truth and place all the consequences back on your sister's doorstep because these were her choices and mistakes. Not the idiot. Why should you set yourself on fire to keep her out of trouble? OP, your sister and your parents now have to pay the price for her insanely immature behavior. Enabling her by lying probably would have just led her to pulling this crap again by stealing from someone else. Better she learns now that the world doesn't revolve around her. The family seems more concerned with protecting the wild child than with your job, finances, and good name. She's reaping the consequences of her actions, not your fault. Yep, it's abundantly clear who the golden child is, and it's not OP. But wait, your father helped your 25-year-old sister steal your car? What kind of crazy family do you have? Please don't feel any guilt about your sister's situation. She and your father deserve anything they get. Going no contact with this bunch would be no great loss.